How do we close the gap between the heart center and how you're leading business? Business, in a way, is like a mirror. It is going to show you who you are. Today, a lot of times, trust is broken. Management doesn't trust the workers. The CEO doesn't trust the management. It's probably easier to avoid things. It's probably easier to fire someone with no heart.
It has to come back to that heart-centered question. Why are we doing it?
Inspired thoughts are going to lead to inspired actions, are going to lead to excellent results. We all want to trust each other. We all want to be heard and listened to. There's another way to all this. It starts with
Well, I know when we first started chatting, you have this depth of business knowledge, which I think anybody would be fortunate to soak that in from a wisdom standpoint. But then our conversation took a detour. And the way that you built your business from this heart-centered, connected space and your soul really was what led the way. And you went on a soul journey in order to do that. And then we dove into your soul. I'm wondering if you'd be willing to travel down that soul journey path first, because I feel like too often we overlook that part of how when our soul leads, business and life and so many other things evolve from there, because we let the outside tell us what to do and then we get sideways. But when the soul leads, we can kind of flourish. So are you willing to talk about your soul journey and how your soul actually contributed to your business?
Yes, I'm happy to. I consider myself a businessman and a mystic. The mysticism came first. I was very much on a journey, like many people on a path. I was I wanted to taste. I read so many wonderful books growing up about these states of consciousness and self-realization and enlightenment. And I was just like enamored by, well, how do I do that? How do I get into myself to actually drink that deeply, where I'm actually like tasting what these amazing authors are putting in books and sharing? That's what I was after. And so at about in my mid-20s, really being on this journey, and I was coming out of a really difficult relationship, and I was heartbroken, and I wanted to solve this problem in my life of what is love and where does it come from, and who are the people who know love the best, and where do I find those people? It was not a Google search. It feels like these sort of paths can be hidden sometimes. I'm like, where's the real stuff, right? And I happened to stumble across a colleague who I was sharing my sort of pain that I was in. And I was unresolved, and I couldn't figure out how to get unstuck from this. And she said that she had a friend who was a Sufi, and she went to a Sufi school where it was like an energy healing school. And she deals with these matters of the heart all the time. And I'm like, I could use help. And so I met this random stranger through a friend who introduced me to Sufism, which is a very mystical path, like the poet Rumi. I actually have behind me my Sufi books here. They're deep, beautiful people who are the Sufis. They're like in the, they call it, Sufi literally means wool. And they used to be these old people who wore like wool clothing. And the metaphor was that they were the wool between the hands of God. They were just so divinely surrendered to that existence that they were just the flexibility to be shaped into the face of the divine. And so I didn't know that at the time. I was just looking for help. So I met this Sufi healer, she called herself, and the first time I met her, it was just something about her eyes that it was just an unassuming person. She was an older woman, and I didn't know didn't look like the Dalai Lama or anything like that. Just looked like a normal person. But she had this energy to her. She held space for me in a way that I never felt listened to or heard or seen that way. And that was like an indicator of like, wow, why am I just sharing so much of myself to a complete stranger? And but what I was really after was, how do I get relief from the pain that I was in? And that's what I was sharing. And she said that, after listening to me kind of empty myself, that she could help, and that she had a practice that she wanted to teach me. It was called remembrance, and this is it's like a meditation but deeper. It's really about remembering where you come from and how to like access that part of yourself, and like traveling through the layers of the heart. There's all this like sort of it's like Sufism's like a system, and she was like opening the first door of that system of the path, and this was the practice of remembrance. And so yeah, I want to learn how to do that. And so we did the first meditation over the phone, and I kind of felt like a ting of something happening. I'm like, I feel a little quiet. I feel a little more peaceful, but I'm no fireworks. I'm not sure of what to expect. And then we did a second session, and I felt a little bit more relaxed. Right, just felt like an energetic massage or something. And but it was the third session that really changed my life.
Do you ever get tired of that negative voice in your head telling you what you can and cannot do? My name is Amber Mikesell, and I personally got tired of that villainous voice controlling my inner realm. So I wrote this book, Silence Your Inner Critic. It's a comic book type series where you go in and you fight that villainous foe all along an epic quest. You can learn more about this fun-filled adventure over at silenceyourinnercritic.com, and you can purchase your copy right there, or you can purchase it wherever you enjoy buying books.
Was when the tomb inside my heart cracked, and I went through sort of from here, from my mind to this, traveled those 7 inches and into my heart. And she guided me through this beautiful practice, this remembrance meditation. And I was able for the first time to really taste what was inside of me, this gorgeous, ecstatic experience. I was so lost inside myself that I had no understanding of time or space, or I was just traveling, going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper inside my heart, and eventually knocking on the door of my soul, and seeing the difference in the discernment between the subtlety of that light. It was very different from the heart space. And as I traveled into that sort of energetic field, that was like a massive entry into a divine reality of like this subtle light and this gorgeous, intoxicating feeling of emotions and sensations, just not human emotions and sensations. They were like almost angelic, like just sort of guiding me and whispering me into this gorgeous garden. And so I spent a lot of time, and I needed it. I was like filling my cup and soaking it in, and like just in this bewilderment of consciousness. And eventually I kind of sort of came out of it, and I was still connected to my earpiece with the phone, because it was through the phone. It wasn't even in person. And I was like, hello. And we must have got disconnected because I couldn't hear her anymore. So I called her back, and I said, yeah, I think we got disconnected. She said, oh no, I had got off the phone about a half hour, 45 minutes ago. I did not want to disturb where you were. I really wanted you to marinate in this light and really, really drink it in. And I'm like, now I have a lot of questions. Who are you? What happened to me? Did you cast some kind of spell on me? Like, what is this? Because this is definitely not my normal state of operating, where my thoughts are driving me, where I'm just moving from one thing to the next with no real understanding of why I'm doing what. This was like deep gnosis and knowledge and insight and spiritual inspiration, and like just an ecstatic state of consciousness. And I was deeply intrigued by what occurred. And so I was following that thread. I was like, I have a lot of questions. How do I get back there? How do I stay there? How do I live there? Because it was like freedom. It was freedom from pain. It was freedom from suffering. It was freedom from, the constant chattering. And I mean, all that was gone. I had no thoughts. I was empty. I wanted to understand how I could anchor my life in that tasting that I experienced and see how much of my life I could live from there. And she's like, this is the start of the path. You took a step. Because I was like, oh, is this enlightenment? Did I reach enlightenment?
I made it.
Yay, I made it. Yay. And she's like, no, like this is, you took like you put a toe in the water. And I was like, if that's a toe, then I want to feel what it feels like to have a whole foot and leg and body in the water. How do I do that? Where do I learn that? Who taught you? So she started to unravel the path to me, introduced me to her teacher, who's this beautiful Sufi master named Sidi. He's from Jerusalem. He unfortunately he passed away quite a while ago, but I spent 10 years with him. And he opened up a healing school in North America that I enrolled in a few months after this experience, because I was just so thirsty for the knowledge. I wanted to drink the real water. I was tired of having dirt in my water and feeding that to my mind and feeding that to my heart, feeding that to my soul. And I wanted to raise the bar of integrity in my life. I wanted to have a moral existence that sort of wrapped around my gorgeous heart so it could stand bright and be led, and that I could be led by that, because I trusted that. I trusted what I saw that day. And I wanted to learn how to go back there more and more and more and more, and continue to sort of remove the veils that was blocking my consciousness from being able to witness at that level. And so that was the path of how to travel and walk the stations of the way. So in Sufism, in this sort of lineage that I was studying, Sufism is, my teacher wrote a book called Music of the Soul, and he outlined the entire path. It's like a roadmap of the inner. It's really dense, not because this is like mystical knowledge. It's hard to understand from here. You have to like witness and taste it. And so, but I enrolled in his school. I became a very serious student. I pretty much lived like a monk for about 3 years. I was celibate. I intentionally stopped dating because that's where I had a lot of problems with relationships, and I wasn't very good at it. And I just said, I need a break. I need to heal. I want to heal. I want to learn about myself. I want to learn about how to really open inside myself the highest nature, the highest intentions that exist inside me, and live my life from there. So if I'm going to get back into dating and find a partner, I want to come from there, but I need space to like almost date myself, get to know this guy, and how to befriend him, how to become best friends with him, and how to care about him and love him and be kind and gentle. Oh my God, I needed that. I was so hard on myself in those years. And so to relax in that school, I spent 4 years there studying, and it was like a retreat center. So the way they structured it, I would go every quarter once for like 7-10 days. So that was the in-person study, and then there was some remote learning as well. But it was like going into ashram or something where you're doing this deep work. And and I'd be meditating 10, 12 hours a day, getting up in the middle of the night and meditating at 3 or 4 in the morning till the sun would come up, and then eat breakfast, and then there would be classes through the day, and you're kind of in this meditation while you're learning the inner systems of how the path works and how to go. The first year is how to break down the ego, and the second year is the stations of the heart. Third year is the stations of the soul, and then the fourth year is the stations of the secret, what they call. And that's like the stations of the unity, self-realization, this gorgeous ecstatic consciousness. And so that's where I started, right?
Is that school still around, by the way? Is that something if someone hears this and they're really drawn to that type
Mhm.
of a system, is that school or a school similar to that,
So
uh,
two things.
something that's available?
Yeah, fortunately, when the master teacher passed away about 10 years ago, that really impacted the school. So I was one blow, and then the retreat center, sadly, I think about 4 or 5 years ago, burned down in one of the California wildfires.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know if they've like fully figured out what they're going to do next, and I think they're still figuring that out. It was a really devastating blow. But I am definitely, if someone is interested in learning about Sufism, wants to study the path, I've been on that path for 20 years, and I have been teaching Sufism, teaching Sufi meditation, and doing that kind of healing work for that whole time. And I would be happy to share what I know. I'm not the master teacher or anything like that, but I have decades of experience, and I love leading people into their heart.
Oh,
So
that's a
they could,
great response.
yeah, they could look me up if they want to learn. I'm happy to share what I know with them.
Thank
Um,
you.
so from there, I started the Sufi school, and I started my first business at the same time. So I'm a businessman and a mystic. They were like one in the same. You could not separate those hats. I came as the full package. But I was also a young guy. I was probably 26 or 7. So I was new to both. I had never started a business, and I had never really been on a spiritual path. So I was starting those all out at the same time. And it was like a beautiful journey, because like business in a way is like a mirror, for entrepreneurs. Like, it is going to show you who you are. It's going to reflect back any of the shadows that are in you, or um, any of the challenges that exist in here, the uncertainties. It will definitely reflect that back to you. If you have a people pleasing issue, it will show you that. If you like to avoid conflict, it will definitely show you that. If you struggle telling the truth, that will cause problems. If you like all these types of things, and I struggle with a lot of that, by the way. So that was a lot of my walking that I had to overcome, was how to be really straight, tell people the truth, hold people accountable, grow through failure, um, be able to, and that was hard, having a little bit of people pleasing issues in my background, where I wanted everybody to like me, you know, and oftentimes, and especially in business, that can be really hard, because so the type of business that I had was, it was called Excite Steps, and that it was a healthcare company that provided ABA therapy to kids on the autism spectrum. And we did really, really beautiful, beautiful work. We impacted a lot of lives. But what I was most proud about was the work culture that we created. I thought at the time I was just dissatisfied with what I saw in the workspace. This is 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9, kind of those years, where I just felt like we could do better than this. Can we create so I'll back up. I started the business with a business partner, one of my best friends, and we started it out of a small apartment, and we scaled it out of the apartment from 0 to 200 employees, to from 0 to thousands of patients, opening up healthcare clinics here in the San Diego area, and becoming like a really formidable force in the autism space for good. And so as we scaled up, we started to hire a lot of people, we had to really learn about organizational development and leadership and how to create a vision and a mission that's bigger than ourselves, how to be led by our value system. What is a value system? How do we even create that? How do we get buy-in from everybody that these are the agreed upon values that we're going to be led by? And so all of this was just like a work in progress, but I was utilizing a lot of the things that I was learning in this Sufi school and the things that I was learning in myself. And I wanted to incorporate that. I wanted us as a group to be able to connect to our highest intentions in our decision-making process. And I really, really wanted to be led by our values. So we actually cultivated a whole value system that anchored us in as a company. And we declared one day that our value system is our boss, that's actually who our real boss is. And that's who's going to lead us. So we're going to be led by integrity. We're going to be led by achieving excellence. We're going to be led by building unity together. We're going to be led by telling the truth. And so whenever we run into conflict, we say, well, what does the values have to say about this? Is there integrity in this decision? Is there, and so it would hold us accountable, and it would hold me accountable. I'll give one quick story that I remember from how the value system led this company. Unfortunately, I had a really bad habit of showing up late to meetings, where I'd be like 10 or 15, 20 minutes behind. And I often was able to brush it off. Oh man, because I'm just going working 70, 80, 100-hour work weeks at times. And I'm just busy. And so I maybe overscheduled myself or whatever. And I always just assumed it was okay. Until one day, one of our sort of frontline workers who we were having a meeting with, not even a manager, I don't think, it just happened to be in this meeting, and said, you know what, our company talks a lot about our values, and I want to speak on behalf of the values. And Matt, I've been in several meetings with you, and we're always starting behind. And that's not integrous, and that's not respecting our time. And if the values really matter here, then I really want to invoke that you realign with them and start respecting our time, because we have things to do and we're waiting for you. And I was like, whoa, okay, all right. Values have spoken. I took it to heart. I listened to it, and I had to do with some self-reflection that, you know what, I am disrespecting your time by not showing up on time. And I am going to realign with that, and I'm going to make some changes. And so that my behavior will align with with our values that we agreed upon. And so I wrote a letter, we wrote an email, letting the company know, company wide, people who weren't even in the meeting, of what happened. And I took some ownership of showing up late, and I said, this is who brought it to my attention, and we respect people who want to enact our values here, and they are our boss, and hey, the boss has spoken. And so that's just like an example of how our work culture behaved, and how we were led by that, and how we really trusted each other, and that that person had was empowered to be able to have that conversation with me, even though I was the co-founder and the CEO of the company. And so that was Sufism, though, because I was out of integrity, and that I was misaligned with my highest intentions. And it was a blind spot. And I was appreciative of my colleague pointing that out to me. And that allowed me to really reflect at home and do meditation and say, gosh, where else am I out of alignment? And so that's where we crossed. That's where we intersect, that we allowed for those beautiful conversations to happen in the conference room. And I often said that the real conversations sometimes happen in the parking lot when people are walking to their cars at night, and they're just they're riffing and saying, I hate this person. You believe what that person said? I said, let's bring those conversations into the conference room and have them with each other. And and we did, and we were able to trust each other. We were able to trust in something that was bigger than ourselves, and we were able to trust ourselves. And so, in a sadly, I think today a lot of times trust is broken,
Hmm.
where the management doesn't trust the frontline workers, or the CEO doesn't trust the management, or they don't trust each other, or it's just like, how do I climb that corporate ladder, and backbite and gossip to get there, or where I just really believe that there is there's another way to all this. And we were one example, one small little example here in San Diego. And we were a heart centered company. We were doing heart centered work, working with the autism population and providing therapy. So we attracted a lot of people who already were very heartful. So I think it was a little easier than maybe working in a more misaligned environment, if you will say. Um, but but I think that these values can exist anywhere, and that they're just human nature. That, like, it's inside all of us. We all want to trust each other. We all want to have our highest intentions be heard and listened to, and follow that. We don't want to lower our bar and come from our lowest intentions and and try to game ship our way to the top or whatever. I think people want to, naturally are inclined towards integrity, and so that's what we tried to do there. Um,
Doesn't that depend on culture? No matter what product we're putting out, one, we should always come back and ask, like, is it fun for our team? Or is there a purpose? It has to come back to that heart-centered question. Why are we doing it? And what does it mean to those who are working on it? Then what does it mean to the consumers for what we're doing it for? Then what's the ripple effect out into the world? Because even if it's not someone who's working on it to create it or someone who's purchasing it, there will always be a ripple effect out to everyone
mhm.
because that's just how that happens. But then it still comes back even further to the culture that you're creating for those individuals. And I feel like when we talked, that's what you did so well because your original intention came from a place of love
Mm,
and that conscious connection of it will always be people first, whether that's the people who work for me, the people I'm in service of, or the whole scope of this entire world where this will ripple effect out too. And then everything built on top of there. So if there's an organization that isn't operating that way, they can always take a pause and go back
yeah.
and ask themselves those questions, right?
Well, that's conscious leadership. Um, and I think to be able to do that, you have to be willing to be conscious yourself. If you want to
Yeah.
have an impact, it starts with yourself doing the work here, right? Healing yourself, healing your family, healing your community, the ripple from there. And if you're in a company, healing the company, of, to ask, why don't we trust each other? Why is there a fracture here? Why are we lowering the bar, so making such low integrity decisions? Yeah, I feel like this culture can exist anywhere. It's going to require somebody, leadership, wanting to take that torch. I think if you're consuming a lot of dirty water yourself and you're struggling, you really don't believe in this stuff. You're going to lead by what your values and your beliefs are. Like, it starts there. Those were actually my personal values
Yeah.
that I had in my own self, that I have in my family, with my marriage, with my friends and my community and my son. Um, I was just in it. That's why I said it was just an extension of who I am. And I just wanted to see who else thought of this. Who else would feel like this is a good idea to run a company. So I actually had a meeting with my entire team one day when we were probably scaling up. We are probably at about 40 or 50 employees. But it was a time where we had to really identify who we were. Like, who are we? And so we got
Yeah.
everyone in the conference room, and I just said, let's just start spitfiring. What do you believe we are? Let's just write the words on the whiteboard. We probably had like 200 words. I think we're this, and I think we're that, and this is who we are. And then we synthesized that down, and we got to our 4 core values. Basically, we said a lot of the same stuff. And at the end of that, I said, "Is this who we are? Are we agreeing on that?" There's a lot of people nodding along to the music. Yep, that's who we are. That's who I am. And that's who I want to be here in this business. That's why I'm attracted to work here, because I felt like this was different than other places that I've worked before. And so from that day, we had a handshake agreement with our community and said, from this moment forward, our values will be our boss, and will be led by these 4 principles, these qualities, and all our decision making. And at any moment, anyone can stand up and reflect and represent those values, just like I gave that example in that meeting one day. So that took practice, and we weren't perfect, and I wasn't perfect. And so we would fumble, and it would be awkward, and we'd stumble, and it would come out in a weird way, and something feels off, but I don't quite know how to point to it or say exactly what is off. And so it was, we constantly would come back in our leadership trainings and practice as a group. Okay, what's happening that we don't want to talk about? What's the real stuff? And let's put it on the table.
Air it out.
Let's air it out between
out
us. And so it would take bravery and courage, and there would be some really difficult things, and and an issue between somebody or this or that, and how do we talk that through? And it was just different. I wasn't aware of a lot of companies that at that time who were practicing like this. And it was really practicing trust, that it's a safe space to really be able to put real things on the table that were work related. Yeah.
You keep saying at that time. I'm still not aware of many companies who operate like this. There might be a couple more, but there's still not a great number of them. And
yeah,
that's the key, is the more that we can show that it's possible. And I know, because we get messages often when we do discussions like this, and the number one feedback is, "Oh yeah, that sounds great for a small business." So can you debunk that? Yeah, this sounds great for a small business, Matt. How big was ultimately, how large did your org?
We had 200 employees. So it was still considered a small business. We didn't have tens of thousands of people. But I don't see, even when we had 10 people, we operated like that. And then when we had 30 people, we operated like that. And then we crossed 100 employees, we operated like that. So we operated like that, dependent at the smaller size, and then when we got bigger. So I think, I should share that I ran that company for 13 years. And unfortunately, it took a toll on me, because I was working 80, 100-hour work weeks for years and years and years. And there was a part of me that I discovered that there was another path for me, that I did what I came to do with this work, and it was time for me to move on to another sort of road. I really wanted to be a spiritual teacher, and so I wanted to focus a lot of my efforts on that. And in 2018, I was able to find a home for the business. I ended up selling it, and I tried really, really hard to do it the right way, and find the right buyer, and help take care of my employees, and help to transition, and do all that. And we put a lot of intention and care into that process, and it wasn't perfect, but we did the best that we could. And I was able to exit that business at that time. I needed several years to heal and to come back to wholeness. And so I took that space and that time, and then I had some fun where I traveled and did a lot of adventure. I did a lot of charity work. I gave back. I did a lot of mentoring and coaching for free to help my community. And I still do that for small businesses and entrepreneurs, where I love to support people who are in some of those spaces that I was in, who want to figure out how to be their own boss, how to do things that matter, how money works. So I enjoy doing that kind of consulting and coaching. I do that now, and I teach meditation as well. And so I feel like I'm on a path that's closer to where my heart's calling me. But I love business, and I love helping other entrepreneurs who want to build similar cultures and want to build
Yeah.
similar value systems, similar missions and visions. I like conscious entrepreneurship, and it's happening. There are a lot of beautiful, heart centered business owners, entrepreneurs who want to do good. They want to do things that matter. They want to care about the planet. They want to care about people. They don't want to rip people off. They don't want to hurt people or hurt the planet. And they're trying their best to develop themselves, to become leaders, to use that talent for good, to have an impact. And I love to support those types of people. But back to your question of, can this scale? Of course it can scale. I mean, yeah. I mean, if I stayed on the path, it probably would have grown that company to 1,000 employees, and it would have just put in management and had leadership and leadership training, and we would have continued to develop our practices, and we would have got better and better and better and better. And we would, and the team would have grown, and we would have matured and um, gained better skills at the EQ stuff, growing our emotional intelligence as a company. It's just work and practice, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not magic. It's a willingness to and a longing, really, to do that, because it's not. I would say it's not easy all the time. It's probably easier to be passive aggressive. It's probably easier to avoid things. It's probably easier to just fire someone cold with no heart, um, to do it in a way with love and but not being like steamrolled, not just being a doormat, um, and doing it away cautiously takes effort and the inner work and looking at your own shadow and seeing, I got triggered God knows how many times running that business. So there were fires coming out, or somebody was upset, or a client or a patient was upset, or an employee, or there were, all kinds of stuff happening that you had to respond to and react to. And it was like, how am I responding to this situation right now? Am I responding from my heart, or am I responding from something other than that? So it was always, this was my spiritual practice, and it gave me a lot to practice on.
And to be able, as a leader of the organization, to consistently show up with that at heart and in mind as a mindful practice, that this is not separate from your spiritual journey. It is a part of it and an extension of it. And it's a way for you to deliver from your soul to the world through this mechanism with others. We call it, because as I showed you before we started, I'm like this superhero fanatic.
Mm,
I call it like my league of superheroes, right? We're all
mm,
together. And
yes.
however you see it in your organization, you're all coming together on the same spiritual movement or collective mission, or however you're coming together to do something amazing. But you also brought up something I think is interesting to observe now in today's day and age. And that is that new entrepreneurs coming onto the scene are more committed to this type of entrepreneurship.
Yes.
How are
I mean,
you seeing this shift? And if so, how can we, those of us who are doing business in this fashion, be there to support them? What
yeah,
would you offer in that?
I work with a lot of young entrepreneurs that are in their 20s and 30s, and many of them are really, really talented. Um, Somebody called me the other day, "You're my business therapist, Matt." I'm like, I'm
That's
like,
awesome.
okay, okay, what does that mean? And it's basically, it's yeah, we can present a basic marketing strategy or help you clean up your organization or your systems and your flows and become more efficient. And there's just like basic business stuff that will help create a more profitability. Um, but most of the time, what they want to talk about it was what's going on in here. They're suffering, they're in pain, they're struggling with their mental health, they're taxing their bodies with a lot of stress. Their containers are really tight and small. How to like they're overwhelmed. Uh, this is not for the faint of heart. You will be tested if you want to step out into entrepreneurship and get in the arena, as they say. Who knows what can happen out there? You know,
Yeah.
I work with a lot of courageous people, and I would say that's probably where I start is really unpacking them and really identifying who they are, what they what they want. Like, why are you doing this? Like, what do you really, really want to get from it? And what are you longing for? And are you connected to that? And oftentimes it starts with just some surface answer, right? And then we kind of go a layer deep and peel that onion another strip and strip and strip until we hit pay dirt and we get into the juicy parts, like that tender, beautiful vulnerability inside their heart. It's just like the answers are just so gorgeous of what they want to bring out into the world and what matters to them. And I mean, there's tears and emotion, and it's like we really, really unpack that and unearth their longings, their deeper desires, and say, great, how do we now close the gap between that heart center and what you and if there is a gap with how you're leading this business, and we begin that work. Or what truth are you uncomfortable saying? Yeah,
Yeah.
I've worked with a lot of people in partnerships, and I've recently worked with a couple of partnerships that have had some conflict, and how to bring those partnerships either back together and repair, and what caused that rift, to understand it from a spiritual level, from just a surface level, all levels of where that came from, and do the repair work. This is like you should see the stuff, the bravery that folks are having, and the courage that they're having to have these conversations, and the willingness and the vulnerability, and they want it. It's like there's such a desire for authenticity, genuine connection, and like, yeah, real talk. What is really going on, instead of just um, speaking in code, or something.
Yeah.
Just like, what do you mean? Let's say it straight, right? Um, and so I've helped partnerships come back together. I've also helped some partnerships uncouple in an amicable, peaceful way. And so I enjoy doing that. I help some companies scale that want to scale their message and scale their products and services. And then we run into issues around abundance and fears and money issues, and all kinds of stuff that comes up, and worthiness, and um, helping people come back home is
Yeah.
really what I enjoy doing. Coming back home.
And that goes back to what you were saying at the very beginning, which was before you could start your business, before you could start a strong relationship, which I know from our previous conversation, you have a very strong marriage and a beautiful family,
I do. Yeah.
but to get there, you had to know you and you had to love you and you had to become your own best friend.
Mm.
And I feel like what you're coaching is that very awareness too, to show back up, knowing your why, knowing who you are, knowing your why, so that then you can not only be solid in a business relationship, but as we discussed too, it's not separate. You don't just show up at business and you're one way and you show up in life and you're another way. If I know Matt in this context, I know Matt wherever Matt is in
Mm.
business, in personal life,
Yeah.
wherever Matt is, this is Matt. And I can speak from experience. Even I, before I had my moment, my realization moment in my spiritual journey, I was battered around by the outside, and I wasn't
Mm.
always showing up as the same person because I didn't know who I was, so I was who I needed to be in whatever context I was in. But then when you really do find your true north and you know who you are, you do, you show up in every situation and you don't have to think, "Oh, how should I respond right now?" And if that's what you're gifting to every entrepreneur, that's a gift that goes way past any business.
I'm really helping them raise the bar of happiness in their life, raising the bar of
Yeah,
integrity in their life. What do you really want? And how do you
yeah, and
access that
why?
info? Yeah, and the why, yeah, the deeper why behind it. But I really want people to come back into like inspired thinking. And I believe that inspired thoughts are going to lead to inspired actions, are going to lead to excellent results. It's just sort of a proven cycle. So if there's something broken down and you're really uninspired, you're taking uninspired actions, it's going to lead to really horrible results. So I get people with some that are coming to me sometimes with some funky results, and let's unwind that. Where is that coming from, right? And they want to improve the results, and they just want a strategy. Show me how you did it. Show me. It's just like, okay, the strategy is the wrong first step. Let's go into what created the result in the first place, what led to that. And so many times it comes, they most times when I work with people, we start with meditation before we can even get into a strategy or even get into what's wrong with their business. I want to find out what's wrong with you. Why are you here? Why did you call me? Like there's some really stressed out, distressed, stuck, uh, some people who are really suffering. And I would
Yeah.
love to end suffering, needless, unnecessary suffering. I would love to try to end that in people's hearts, in their existence, in their minds. And so to go from here to here is the first step. And let's identify what is in here. What does that want to say? Do you even want a business? Is this even what you really want to even do? I've talked some
Mhm.
people out of doing it. It's not what they really wanted. They wanted a lifestyle. They wanted to travel. They wanted freedom. They wanted other. I was like, you can figure that out without this, or what you're on, or maybe it's a different kind of, more of a lifestyle business and trying to scale what they're doing. Um, and then the happiness just comes back. The light comes back in their eyes. They realign with themselves again. And they're like, now I'm on a path that it really brings me joy and I fulfillment and peace. And I'm, just re-inspired again. So yes, you need to know the why, but I want to help people find the what gets them up. And maybe we're talking about the same thing, but like the deeper what is it in there? What do you really want? What do you really, really want? It's a hard question. I ask it all the time. It's a simple question, and you wouldn't believe, Amber, how many people fumble over it. How many people just I want this, I want that, and it's just like, okay. And then I push back and said, well, Let's dig into that. What is it that you want about that? Why do you want that? What is underneath that? And they don't have an answer. Okay, so you don't really want that. What do you really want? And then we get to a place where Matt, I don't know what I want. I really don't know. I'm stuck. I'm stuck on that question. Okay. Are you ready to come back into your heart, your soul? Are you ready to surrender? Let go of trying to answer it from here and let's go somewhere else that may have a deeper answer. And that's where we start the journey. And then when we unearth that roadblock and go past the objections of the mind and into the sweetness of the heart, and through that beautiful door, when it finally bursts open, and whatever's behind that door can come out, that child could come out and play, that relaxation feeling, the emotion could be released, the heart can be really heard and listened to by you. And it might just say something like it said to me when I was suffering under working incredible amount of hours. It's okay to do something else. And I really thought that I didn't have an option because I had committed so much I cared so deeply about the people that I had. I was so concerned about their futures that I didn't think I could walk away from them. And that I saw in my heart that if I were to transition out of this to sell this company, that the goal would absolutely have to be a win-win and that everybody can walk away winning. That my people, my team, and my clients, my patients, the buyer, and me. And we could all harmoniously walk away winning. And if I were to do that, I could walk out the front door with my head held high. That I did right by everybody. And that was the goal. But my mind didn't have that. It came from my heart. It showed me that I could do that. And that is actually what I'm longing for. And I put that on the table. And I went to work on that goal. And I brought the people in and we started that process. So that's what I often encounter with a lot of people that I work with, that they're just running things from here. And when we come here, we find new answers, new data, new information that creates new inspiration that leads to profound actions that creates just magnificent results. And so I experienced this myself. I'm not, like I said, I'm a work in progress. I've been stuck many times. But each time that I've gotten unstuck, it really came from a deeper part of myself that helped me get unstuck.
Yeah. If someone is beginning that journey of, we'll start first with a spiritual journey. They know that something doesn't feel aligned within them, but they don't really know which direction to go. And part of why we started Suivera is there are so many paths up the mountain, right?
Of course. Of
We're not
course.
always certain which one calls to us.
Mm,
What what would you say to them? Because the goal is to really understand who we are. As you're saying, get back into the heart so that you can find that center. So, how what would you say to them for the how to that? It's like the first time someone told me to meditate and they said, "Go within." And I'm like, "What does that even mean?" I
of
close my
course.
eyes and I see the back of my eyelids, right? You know, you get to that.
Of
You
course.
have these amazing instructors that help you through the process. Where would someone even begin to begin the process? What's the how?
I would say and I don't know what everyone's belief structure is, but can we just call this like universal intelligence or God, whatever word you want to use? I'd say pray to
Yes.
that word and ask for help. I need help with this. I need your support to bring me something that will show me a way in. Because despite my best efforts, I have not been able to do it on my own. And I need your support and help. I pray. That'll be the first step. Turn over your, just soften yourself and ask for help. You don't, maybe it's an inward, I don't know, however you want to pray. I don't really care how you do it. Just do it. Right? Whatever word you want to use, just use it. But ask for it. So I'd start there. And then I would just try stuff that you feel called to. Is it a breathwork class? Is it a yoga class? Is it a dance, ecstatic dancing? Is it some interesting meditation teacher? Is it, what draws you? What are you attracted to? What's pulling you? Right? And go test it out. Hey, I did the yoga. It's not for me. Hey, I did the breath work. That's okay. But this ecstatic dancing was something else. Okay, pull on that thread. What was it about that? Boy, I felt free. I felt like I could just be myself, and I'd never felt that way in a while, or have never felt that way. No one judged me. I was out there and I looked weird, and I just went for it, right? And when's the last time you went for it? I never went for it, so I went for it. And something happened to me. Let's pull that thread, right? So that maybe that's a start, or maybe it's a meditation teacher and there's just somebody you're drawn to. They have an energy to them. They have something you trust, something you like. Sit with them. Ask them to help you to tap into here. This is a natural muscle, folks. This is not something that you were born with this. It's not something you have to like go discover. It's already in you. It's just maybe the mirror's a little rusty. That's it. And you're just learning how to polish it so it can shine a little bit brighter. And a 10-minute meditation, a little bit of polish. A yoga class, a little bit of polish. Maybe it's exercise. Maybe it's being in nature, hiking, surfing. I've seen people, I have a friend who's a cyclist. He gets up at 4 or 5 in the morning. He cycles for 2 to 3 hours before the sun's even up. He has these gorgeous spiritual experiences on his bike. And he takes pictures of like some of the most amazing sunrises. And that's his spirituality. And he's comes back to himself on his bike. So I don't know what your path is. I don't know what you're called to. Call on it. Call on it and ask for the help that you need. And that's what I did. And this Sufi healer showed up in my life. I have no idea how it happened. I just said, yes, I need help. And a colleague introduced me to this person, showed up, and I wasn't expecting anything. I just thought it was going to be, honestly, I thought it was going to be dumb. I had such low expectations. And it blew my mind, blew me straight open. My heart, an experience I never had. I have been following that thread for 20 years. And I've gone deeper and deeper and deeper, and there's more magic. I mean, I'm still having incredible, remarkable, mystical experiences all the time. And I've gotten better at it, and I've worked out those, work out the muscles, and I'm getting stronger, the spiritual muscles. And so I put a lot of time into it and work and practice, but it's gotten easier, and I'm flowing a lot better, and it's like becoming more graceful with it. And I'm having a lot of beautiful reflections coming back from that with my marriage and friends and community and success, and seeing all that sort of those results from those inspired actions. But that's what I would recommend, Amber, is call on it, ask for help, pray about it, follow your intuitiveness. You have intuitiveness inside you. It's just something that draws you here, draws you there, or just follow that breadcrumb. See where it takes you.
And when I feel into your journey from hearing it, now obviously I didn't experience it, but this is just what settles with me. You asked for it, which was such a vulnerable act. So, just the sheer step of asking invoked something within, which is an opening. And then when it was delivered, even though the first one only gave you that little tingle,
Mm,
you didn't stop. You didn't just judge it and say, okay, no, I didn't have this massive experience. You allowed for the potential
mm.
of it to continue to unfold. And so, just in that, going from vulnerability to allowing for the potential of what could continue to occur, that was like the
Mhm.
crack happened from the willingness to be vulnerable in the first place. And then from that crack, everything else began to crack open. And so it allows me to know that sometimes just asking for help begins that process.
It can. If I'm being honest, I was desperate. I was hurting. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I was beaten down. This relationship that ended in my life really, really just wrung me through the ringer. And I was uninterested in following the script that my friend, let's go to the bar and drink our sorrows away and let's just hook up and do. I was done with hookup culture. I was done with drinking. I don't know where that came from, but it was it just caught me in the moment. The universe grabbed me, and I was in such desperate pain that's where the vulnerability came from. That's where the willingness. I was like, I'm desperate for help. I need help. Despite my best efforts, I don't know how to get myself out of this. I'm trying. I'm running. Someone said meditate. I'm sitting on my bed. Meditate. I don't even know what I'm doing. I need help. I need help.
Yeah.
And so I just kept, asking for help, taking a step, talking about it, taking different actions. Like I said, I stopped drinking. I stopped participating, and that didn't feel good anymore. I know that that's not feeling good. So I'm going to stop that, and I'm going to try to lean into something new, and I'm open to it. And I may not be good at it yet, but I'm willing to try. And I really wanted it. I wanted to feel different. I wanted it to improve my life. I didn't want to feel this way anymore. I wanted real love. I wanted a partner. I didn't know how to get one. I wanted to upgrade my work life. I was just about thinking about an entrepreneurship. I didn't have the confidence yet, but I was getting close. I wanted to upgrade that. I wanted to upgrade my health. I wanted to feel whole, solid. I started running and training. I ran a marathon, a triathlon. It was just step by step by step by step. And getting around inspiring people. And like I joined a community here in Encinitas, where I live in San Diego, and that they met every week. This little Sufi group. It was like my little church. I would go there every Sunday and I'd meet them, and I'd feel good when I left. And I just kept doing it, and I kept unraveling and unraveling, and those steps added up. That compounded over 2 years, 3 years. And I had enough reflection, enough experiences of feeling that, because it wasn't just like one mystical experience and my life's forever changed and I'm like, I'm Gandhi now or something. Like, no, it was hard. It was like a good experience, and then it would sink back down and then go up and down and a setback and then go up. It was not just a straight line. but I grew and I built momentum, and I started to feel good about the changes that were happening in me. And I started to feel good about the courageous conversations I was willing to have with the people I cared about, my family, where I started to see dynamics that weren't healthy, and my parents' marriage and my relationship to my siblings. I wanted to change those things. It mattered to me. And I didn't know how to do it, but I was learning how to do it. And I think sometimes just taking a step, a courageous step in action, can lead to a beautiful result. And I encourage anyone listening who's struggling, who's suffering, who's having challenges, if you're open to it, be willing to do that for yourself. Whatever you're willing to do. Maybe it's just going for a walk. Maybe it's just calling someone that you're afraid to talk to and saying something really, vulnerable and sincere. It could be I did that with a sibling. I wanted to repair a relationship. There's and there's a lot of people out there that you'll see, and I can't guarantee the results. I don't know what will happen. But I can say that the effort will be met. And that's important, to create something, some inspiration, some momentum. Just take a step, go to a yoga class, join a group. If you're struggling with addiction, get into a meeting, reach out for help.
Now, you had mentioned you're beginning to navigate into, you do some business coaching,
Yeah.
but you're moving into some spiritual coaching and support. If someone just heard that and they feel like, yeah, this is where I'm at, and they're looking for someone to support them, and Sufism and this path does feel like something they would desire to explore, is there a way that they could get a hold of you to ask questions, to
Mm.
seek guidance, to see if you might be the coach that they've been holding out for?
Yeah, you can find me for my business folks. You can find me on LinkedIn. For anyone else, you can find me on Instagram, Matt Winkley, on both channels. You can punch in my name, I'll come up, and my direct messages are open. I respond promptly, and we can schedule a chat from there. And I'd be very open to, if anyone was feeling drawn to me. I'm just here to spread care in the world. My Sufi name is Abdul Latif, and it basically means I care about you. And I bought the domain name icareaboutyou.com. And that's what I want to bring out to the world, is we care about each other again, and just be there for each other. I think we need that right now.
Yes. Yes, we do. Very much so. And we'll make sure that both your LinkedIn profile and your Instagram are connected here. So it's very quick and easy. Wherever someone's listening to this or watching, they can just scroll down to the notes and click
Great.
and get to you very, very quickly and
Great.
easily. And I am just very grateful for you and the heart that
Mm,
you bring to business, the heart that you bring to spirituality, and the heart that you bring to life in general.
mm,
You show people that it's possible, that it doesn't need to be compartmentalized,
mm,
that it doesn't need to be, I can only show it to this group of people, but not this group of people. You can be a walking expression of love in all aspects of life. And you gain so much by doing that. So thank you for your presence in this world.
Thank you, Amber, for having me. I just really enjoyed being on your podcast, and just I hope I brought some value to your community. And again, if anyone's really struggling out there, either in business or personally, I'd love to support you and help you. And I hope we connect soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, Matt Winkley, he's incredible. I'm so grateful. So, so grateful that you were brought into our awareness. And I know that this is not the last time that our hearts will integrate. We look forward to everything that will continue to unfold as the universe aligns. So until next time, Matt.